What's going on? Welcome to the JTFB YouTube channel. On this episode of Taking Command with Josh Taylor, we obviously have some big news out of Ashburn today. We woke up to some news that Carson Wentz will in fact be starting against the Browns for our Washington Commanders. After what we saw last week in the 49ers games on Christmas Eve, Taylor Heinicke struggled a bit, and then they went to Carson Wentz in that second half. And then first drive that he was in, led the offense down the field and scored a touchdown. And I just want to give my quick thoughts on this. Obviously, just thinking back to even last year, they saw Taylor Heinicke go 7-9 as the full-time starter for most of the season and said, we need to upgrade at the quarterback position in the offseason. And they went out and paid a heavy toll for Carson Wentz with the draft pick and then obviously with the cap. Now he does have an easy out in this offseason with a $0 dead cap hit. And obviously with the comp pick that can go from a second or a third, it looks like it's leaning towards more of a third. Really depends on what that final snap count is. I think it has to be under 70% for the comp pick to stay at a third round pick. But still, Washington said we need an upgrade. We have too many playmakers. We have too good of a defense to really let that go to waste. After trying many, many times with these one-year rentals or even drafting quarterbacks and it just not playing out, it seems like Washington has been stuck in this quarterback purgatory for a long time now. Since I was born, it seems like we could not get a long-term quarterback unless you count RG3 and Kirk Cousins, of course. But still, it just had this feel that with, Carson Wentz getting hurt, Heinicke came back in. They go on this great run. Obviously, that's huge. Put us back in a position to actually make the playoffs. In such a year that the NFC product is so bad. You have, losing records in the NFC South where it looks like someone's going to lock in that position and they're still kind of fighting for a last spot. You have Green Bay, who's looking terrible this year. They're fighting for a last spot. The Lions look a little bit better, but all in all, it's just a really bad product in the NFC. So Washington is fortunate enough to be even considered in one of these wild card spots with the NFC East being so good this year. So Washington looks at it. They see Taylor Heinicke going this good run. Great, we're in a position. But then starting really around that Giants game where we tied them, we played at New York, there's just a lot of missed opportunities on offense. And I think that Ron Rivera and company really went into that bye week saying, all right, Carson Wentz is getting better. He's getting healthier. That hand looks better. He's kind of getting that rust knocked off, getting back into the groove. We need to find a spot to really transition back to Carson Wentz. And obviously, you don't want to just pull the plug on a quarterback in Taylor Heinicke where you do have this win streak. You're hot. You're on the local media. People are talking about you. They're talking about the Jordans after the games and stuff like that. People started to respect Washington and really saw that run that we were going on. But we knew eventually, as it always does, that Heinicke magic kind of starts to wear down. Teams really figure out what we're trying to do. We're leaning heavy on the run. Defense is playing lights out. At some point, something's going to give, and it's going to come at a really crucial point in a fragile spot in the season where you can't slip up and lose that last playoff spot. So obviously, like I said, they go into the bye week and then they go at home in a game that was freezing cold. I was there against the Giants. There's so many opportunities in that game. You look at that very ending. So he throws the bomb to Jahan Dotson, does Taylor Heinicke. Probably the best play of his career, like a 60-yard bomb. I didn't think he had it in him. First down, totally unexpected. And then on that same drive, fumbles the ball when he scrambles out to the outside. Just a lot of missed opportunities to win the game. See what you want about the refs at the end. But still, Washington needed something a little bit more at the quarterback position. I think they still do, honestly. I don't think Wentz is the answer. I don't think Heinicke is the answer. Is Howell the answer? We don't know. And we actually might see Sam Howell before the season's over, even though there is 2 games left. Because Ron Rivera said if we are not playing a meaningful game in that last game against Dallas, that he would put in Sam Howell to start. And I think that's huge. So for me, that says we're pretty much done seeing Taylor Heinicke unless Wentz gets hurt again, this game coming up, or we win this game and Wentz gets hurt or just looks really bad and we need to win that last game at home against Dallas, then we could possibly see Taylor Heinicke in. But for me, it's a win-win situation. And I said this on Twitter at Josh Taylor FB. If you don't follow me already, it's a win-win situation in that if you don't make the playoffs, for everyone that wants to see Sam Howell, and I want to see Sam Howell play because I love Sam Howell. I'm a big fan of him as a person and a player. You will, possibly see him. So if you lose and you're out of playoffs, whatever. Are we even good enough to go on a long playoff run? I don't know. The last few weeks, it hasn't looked like it. So if we are knocked out, you might just see Sam Howell. I know it's just for one game, but still it's something. It might be against a bunch of backups in Dallas. Who knows? They got their playoff spot locked. I don't really see them playing all their starters, risking getting hurt right before the playoffs. But still, you might get a chance to see Sam Howell in a regular season game, not a preseason game against Baltimore like we saw, and then sprinkled in those other preseason games. So Wentz comes in. He has the upside. You will have the bad. You'll have the sacks. You'll have the interceptions and so on. But if you look at the stat line with Taylor Heinicke and Carson Wentz, Taylor Heinicke just passed him in passing attempts last game, and he's played in those 3 more games than Wentz did. So this has been a completely different team ever since Taylor Heinicke came in. Obviously, Wentz didn't have Brian Robinson, who we've been leaning heavy on in the run game, then going on this win streak. And then also the defense was so bad those first few weeks. And they were okay against the Jaguars. Gave up some big plays, got lucky a couple times. They obviously had that interception at the end by Derek Forrest. But you think about the Lions game and the Eagles game, there's just so many times that defense looked completely different than they have in the second half of the season. So I think you have to see what Wentz can look like with this team running the ball more. And then what this defense making stops, getting turnovers, which we could not do except for that one interception against the Jaguars. We could not get turnovers in that first part of the season. And I think it's all going to come down to one thing. Yes, Wentz has the upside. I think he has the arm talent. I think it's very obvious. You should know that he has a better arm than Taylor Heinicke. I think he takes sacks more because of his size. He's not as mobile in the pocket as he was in the past because of his injuries, with the Eagles. So you can just tell he's not what he used to be, and that's okay. He has to be smart about his time in the pocket, his mental clock, and we saw that against the 49ers. What was his third or fourth play back on the field since his injury? He's about to get sacked, and he flicks one out to running back. I forgot who it was, probably Gibby, but he takes it for a pretty good gain. When it was about to be a sack, it could have been a disastrous play, but still, that's what I want to see out of Wentz. I want to see him throwing that deep bomb to De'Ami Brown like he did against the Titans, that deep bomb to Terry McLaurin against that right sideline, that 9 route against the Jaguars, the game winner over to Jahan Dotson in the end zone where he gets it. So I want to see what the true potential of this offense looks like with Carson Wentz, but it's going to come down to Scott Turner realizing don't throw it 40 times with Wentz because you will get some interceptions. You will get some bad plays. Yes, you will get some big plays. And that's the difference between Heinicke and Wentz. We started seeing the Heinicke turnovers and stuff catching up to him, and it wasn't getting counteracted with, big time touchdowns and, a place where you can say, okay, that interception was bad, but you came back, you bounced back, and you threw a touchdown. I mean, even that one play to Jahan Dotson where he's running like a post route across the middle early in the game against the 49ers, everyone's like, oh, man, Jahan Dotson dropped a touchdown. If you look at it, Heinicke missed the touchdown because Jahan Dotson's running his route. He cuts inside up across the middle of the field, but Taylor Heinicke throws it way outside of him, so he has to push the DB out the way and cut back and try to adjust. Really hard play, and it's in the sun. Could he have called it? Yes, but ideally, a quarterback with the arm strength of Carson Wentz, not saying Carson would have hit it, but he should have, could lead him in the middle of the field, and it's a walk-in touchdown for Jahan Dotson, who's been lights out the last few weeks. So I think the key thing is mix in these 2 game plans that we've seen throughout the season. Yes, it's okay to take these deep shots with Wentz and, be aggressive in the passing game, but do not back off of running the ball with Gibson, and especially with the train of Brian Robinson, who's been tearing through defenses ever since, he really knocked that rust off for us. So I think if you can mix together a good balance of what we've seen with the Taylor Heinicke offense and with the Carson Wentz offense, I think you will see Carson Wentz beat the Browns on Sunday. And I think we should definitely beat the Browns on Sunday, especially after what I saw in that Saints game where they didn't really have a passing game at all for the Saints didn't. And Deshaun Watson hasn't looked too good. Since he's come back, their defense is a little suspect. Obviously, you've got to worry about their pass rush. And our offensive line has looked pretty bad, except for in the running game. The running game on the inside's been pretty solid, but it's just these pass protections, which is what you worry about with Wentz, his blind spot, whether it's Cornelius Lucas on the right side or Charles Leno on the left side, who's been getting beat pretty bad by some pass rushers, and you have Myles Garrett coming through. So it's just offensive line has to play well. But for me, it's going to come down to how well Scott Turner can balance this offense and not just say, hey, Wentz, go throw it 40 times and let's just pray on every single one of them. So let me know what y'all think. I think it was the right decision because you need the upside of Carson Wentz's arm. I mean, Ron Rivera said it itself. He said we need a spark on offense, and they didn't get it. I don't think Carson Wentz would have beat the 49ers if he played the whole game. Not saying that. But going into it, he has this week of preparation. He's coming back home, playing the Browns, who are out of the playoffs. Don't really have too much to play for, and a good opportunity to take care of business. You beat the Browns, you come back home, play the Cowboys in that last game. That can be the game that gets you in the playoffs if you're Washington. And that's how it should be. Home game against the Dallas Cowboys at home, regardless if it's Cooper Rush and a bunch of backups playing. That's how it should be. Win, take care of business, and you're in. Don't worry about the Packers. Don't worry about the Lions, the Seahawks, whoever. Win and take care of business, and Ron knows that. And if we get knocked out of the playoffs, if we lose to the Browns and all these other wins happen, okay, we're out of the playoffs. We start Sam Howell, and we start that evaluation process and really find our quarterback for next year. We're going to do that regardless, whether it's Derek Carr, whether it's Will Levis, whether it's Tom Brady, doesn't matter. It could be Sam Howell. We will find out who's the quarterback of next year. So, guys, appreciate y'all tuning in. Like I said, drop your comments if was this the right decision or not, and subscribe to the channel because I got a lot of draft content coming up. I will be in LA this weekend for the Rose Bowl, really kicking off this draft coverage. So stay tuned. Penn State versus Utah. Can't wait. But if you're an NFL draft junkie like me, got some good things cooking up here on my new show, The Draft Board. But I'm always going to talk Washington Commanders content as always because there's a lot to talk about on the field and off the field. So appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll see y'all next time here on the JTFB YouTube channel.